What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday, my favorite day of the week. And you know what that means? It means for the second consecutive Wednesday, Peter Rees and I are hosting the Wednesday Afternoon Delight. Hello, commenters. Happy spring football. It was great seeing photos of Derry Mensah out there, number 10, seeing Malachi Tony, number 1. Peter Rees was there yesterday. We will get some more of his thoughts. I know he's already like CanesInSight often does, has already hit the ground running and already given you eyewitness analysis. But we begin with North Carolina and a brilliant men's hoop season that unfortunately came up just short against Purdue. I was really impressed with Purdue's ability to execute that high screen and roll. At some point, Pete, you just have to tip your hat and say that team was better than us. They hit a little midseason lull, but they were everything that they were advertised to be and more. Jay Lucas, I thought his tactics of having Shelton Henderson do his best on the perimeter was the right call, given his athleticism. But those little tiny white dudes, man, those guys just picked us apart and killed us. That high screen and roll does Miami in. And now Jay Lucas, his name is often mentioned with some marquee jobs that are either open now or rumored to be opening up. So first off, your take on North Carolina, because this directly impacts the Miami program as presently constituted. Hubert Davis gone. That's a big move inside the ACC. That is one of the creme de la creme programs. There's a lot of interesting names tied to this. If you check sportsbook odds, Jay Lucas not really in this mix, but that doesn't mean Miami is free and clear, and we'll get into that in a second. But first off, Pete, your treetop view on what this means for ACC basketball.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mike, I've talked to a few different people in the basketball world this morning, and a pretty strong consensus, which I got to say, I didn't realize it was this strong of a belief in the basketball world. Maybe that just shows you I'm not as connected as I think I am, but everyone's saying this is the best job in college basketball, right? And I kind of, as someone who admires the UNC program from afar, I kind of push back on these people. I said, what makes it that? Is it just that so many great players have gone there? Michael Jordan, the greatest arguably ever to do it, went there. Is it just the aura about it? And the response I got was, it sells itself, right? That's the major thing. Now, obviously, the money thing is another part of it. But I like the feedback I got is like, it's not like they have more money to spend or they're spending more money on NIL, which is what we're really talking about here. We talk about resources than a Kentucky would be, or even like a Texas Tech, as crazy as it sounds in today's era, right? So there's going to be programs. Kansas is going to spend money on NIL. We understand there's going to be those sorts of programs that are blue bloods and will spend money. But the consensus is this is the best job in college basketball, right? So with that being said,
yeah,
how does this affect Jay Lucas?
I'll stop just short because I think there's like about 6 that can make that argument and sells itself to your overall point, Pete. I think that's a diluted argument that doesn't account for the new landscape, but proceed.
Well, with that being said, North Carolina is going to shoot for the absolute stars here. We shout out to Taylor. He's someone who's very
Taylor Vipolis is as plugged in to UNC athletics. The guy's been breaking stories left and right. He was all over the Bill Belichick stuff. So when Taylor Vipolis speaks on North Carolina, people should listen.
Yeah, and listen. That based off what he's saying, right, to us and some of the stuff and what he said publicly as well, like the names they're going after, Mike, are in a stratosphere up here, right? Brad Stevens reportedly has already said no. I think Billy Donovan might be the guy. I mean, it looks like on prediction markets and on the betting odds right now, he's the favorite as well. That one makes a lot of sense. Now, is that a slam dunk hire? A guy who hasn't coached in college basketball in 12 years, hasn't coached pre-NIL? I don't know. With all of this being said, though, they're going to go get someone in a tier that's up here. Is it Otzelberger from Iowa State? Is it Nate Oates from Bama? There's
Lloyd
going to be
Lloyd from Arizona is also
Lloyd from Arizona, right? And we have to mention when we're talking about this that there's a high likelihood. I know he's denying it now publicly. He says no news, it's BS. But Bill Self, Kansas retirement rumors are also popping up here. He said there's no timetable for it. I'm reading between the lines saying I want to do this on my own kind of power, and I don't want it to leak before I can officially get my things in order and we set the press conference up and all that. Now also throw into the equation maybe John Shire with the Bulls as that job becomes open, right? Even if that one doesn't happen though, Mike, you have to think there's going to be some major moves here across college basketball. Obviously, Jay Lucas is going to be a name that's talked about with some of these. But for the time being, I would like to see what else opens up here before I start to react, because I don't think Carolina's coming right now. Duke,
I agree.
Duke, if that thing opens up, I have no idea what to think about that one. But at the end of the day, if Duke loses Shire to the NBA, I'm sure they'll have options as well, just like we're talking about here with Carolina. So there's just a lot to sift through here. But could you imagine, Mike? And I know people are probably hopping on here saying, "Man, the title's football is back," but I think we're looking at a real possibility here that you have at least two of these seismic jobs in Carolina and Kansas opened right now. How does this affect? Listen, we're concerned over here. I think Florida Gator fans should probably be more concerned than we are with Todd Golden.
Yeah, well, you're saying a lot. There's a lot to unpack in everything that you're saying. So this is actually a little bit humbling, because we've been terrified all season that Jay Lucas might leave us, and then you realize, like, oh, they're fishing for guys that are in the NBA. They're fishing for guys that have won national titles as recently as last year. Jay is not quite on that level, but this can still impact Jay. So I guess what Miami Hurricanes fans, because this is CanesInSight, so let's apply that prism now. Miami Hurricanes fans should be rooting, I guess, for Billy Donovan. Look, I know that John Shire is linked to Chicago, but I gotta imagine
Chicago guy. I think that has to be the only draw to him. I guess you could say he was growing up in Jordan era, so like, maybe
John
there's
Shire,
that tug to it, but
John Shire has a dream job. I know that
I don't know why you would leave that job if you're him personally.
Yeah, and it seems to be going well for John Shire. So I don't know how likely it is that he goes to the NBA. But all right, what I'm rooting for, even though I think Billy Donovan is a pretty decent hire, I know he comes with a reputation, but it's not 100% solidified success, right? Like he's coming back to a game that has changed some. But Billy Donovan's one of the game's greatest college basketball coaches, and for a brand that is often branded as it sells itself, that's a pretty marquee pairing. All right, North Carolina, Billy Donovan, that makes the ACC more competitive, but I'm a big believer in a rising tide lifts all boats. You get Billy Donovan at North Carolina, you get the ACC back in that conversation as, a top 2 conference in America. Things like what just happened to Miami don't happen anymore, which is them as a 7 seed having to travel to Missouri because they get no GD respect. So I'm rooting for Billy Donovan to go to North Carolina, primarily because I'm worried about the dominoes. You mentioned Todd Golden. I think that's a really interesting one, especially around Kansas. Because while Jay Lucas may not be in that God tier of the hey, North Carolina fans, pick fantasy names. And Brad Stevens actually makes sense in the mind of a North Carolina fan, right? Go figure. Jay Lucas is not in that God tier. But if you're looking to replace Todd Golden at the University of Florida, now we're getting warmer. And my fear is that one coach leaves with a pretty solid job, leaves for North Carolina. That opens up another job. Maybe Jay Lucas isn't in direct competition for that job, but the job that just opened up is looking at Jay Lucas. So I kind of want these dominoes to be stacked just at 2. And if Billy Donovan goes to North Carolina, that's one less domino series falling that we have to worry about.
Yeah, and I want to say something on Golden and UF real quick, Mike, because people might be saying, why would he leave UF? He just won a national championship there. and without saying I know the complete ins and outs of what's going on at Florida, from what I understand, he won that championship team he won with was somewhat on a budget. It's not like they won. It was a lot of guys who were under recruited. You had Clayton who came over from Iona, right? And some other guys who were really not heralded as big time recruits who ended up being a big part of that championship run. But they went out and spent now on Xavier Lee, Boogie Fland. It was kind of, those guys were kind of flops, for a lack of a better word there. And I just sense that, not to say Florida, I'm not putting out a pity party for them in terms of money here, but you have to make decisions a lot of times, right? They have now had to flip this thing on the football side with Napier and Summerall. They're putting a lot of money into now year one over there. They're going to have to flood some money there. Again, when you win a championship without really having spent, somewhat on a budget, and then the next year you go out and spend and it doesn't go so well. The people who are spending the money, my theory here is, hey, we got to get back to doing what we got to do on the football side. And we love that we won a national championship on the basketball side here. But if a Kansas comes calling and tells Golden, we got this budget and we don't give a what about football here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think, UNC, that's the other part of it too. They've got a little bit of money tied up on that football side too. I mean, when we go back to that argument about where this job is in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if it's number one. I think it's top 3. But I think these coaches are all looking, Mike, at where are you putting your money as a program. By the way, one last thing, I've been rambling here, but the other move that we need to mention, because it's very related to Miami, is Will Wade looks like he's leaving NC State after 1 year to go to LSU. The pieces are falling in place there, so you'll probably have another coach in place at NC State here, which is, as Jay Lucas said, one of the better environments in the ACC. Right
20,
up there,
20,000 seat arena, a market that is kind of SEC like with its passion. I actually think that NC State is a bit of a sleeping giant, and football is always going to be an uphill climb for that program, even though they've had a couple of good teams. I'm not going to say that they're going to ignore it, but I do think inside of that Tobacco Road corridor, they should have done a better job with their basketball program, and this is a really cool opportunity for them to really make an impressive hire. Why Florida scares me, that job opening up, is because we've seen them win a national championship. I think most people in the college basketball world would concede, even Miami Hurricanes fans, as much as it pains me to say this, is that's a better job than Miami. Jay Lucas did play at Florida before transferring out. I've always been afraid of Texas in this conversation because while people talk about the Blue Bloods, they talk about North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, because they've got the national titles there. There is no conversation to be had when you're talking about best programs in America. If you are not including Texas in those conversations just because of their resources, it's ill-informed. It's ill-informed. I think Texas basketball can be one of the best jobs in the nation. I think Jay Lucas knows that. That's always been the one that's terrified me the most. Now, Kansas, right, can be scary.
Well, but listen, Sean Miller, they seem to be pretty happy with Sean Miller now in the Sweet 16. So we might be okay there for the time being.
Yeah, I think we're okay. But I always thought I was worried about that. Look, they weren't a guarantee. They were in the first 4.
Some people have thrown out Miller's name with UNC too, but
that's weird.
I don't see it. But
yeah, my fears about Texas were kind of quelled with their run that they had in the tournament. But again, I just don't think Jay Lucas is on that level yet. I think Jay, look, if one of those jobs open up, you gotta listen, and some people might get in Jay's ear and tell him, like, you're crazy, you got to take this job. But I just don't think he's there yet. I think if you had him on Truth Serum, while I know he would think that he would do an incredible job at some of these places, I think he would concede that, it's been one incredible turnaround, the greatest single season turnaround in college basketball history. But some of the names that we're talking about here, they're way more accomplished than Jay Lucas. They just are.
And look, Mike, I can't speak for the man, but like there's something to be said. Me trying to be completely like take the orange and green glasses off here. There's something to be said about kind of learning at your own pace here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't have the same pressure at Miami as he would in some of these places that we're talking about. You're expected to be in the mix every single year.
And Miami's a really good job. Miami's a top 25 job in the sport. Like something that I understand the programs that we think are circling, even though we actually have no strong indication from reporting that any contact's been made. And from the list of candidates so far, Jay Lucas has not been mentioned. It's only been mentioned by paranoid Miami Hurricanes fans, both in our comment section and doing the content creation. I just think that he's got a good thing down here. The way that he speaks about it seems like he's interested in building. I think the smart play would be continue to build here because we know that Miami can have the potential to be a premier program, an Elite Eight and a Final Four, back-to-back seasons, you know? It's an attractive market with a great collective, one of the best collectives in the nation, and now one of the bright young minds at coaching. This is a good job. And Jay Lucas can get it to the point that, you know, we're a top 15 potentially, and he can build his resume so that the next time a job like North Carolina opens up or a job like the Chicago Bulls opens up, Jay Lucas will be in that God tier of candidates like we discussed.
Hey, just keep raising the profile of this Miami job. That's all I can ask for as a fan. Like I said it the other day, I think when I did my my post-mortem there after the loss, I was very somber, but all you can ask for as a fan, we have we're so lucky on the football side, Mike. It's a unique situation. The guy's not going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But every other sport, you really have to understand that every coach is trying to move themselves up the ladder in some way, shape, or form. But as fans, can you leave the place in a better program in a better spot than you left it? That's all you can really ask for. Jim Larrañaga, really disappointing last couple of years there, but
yeah, that's a loaded one. But he definitely did.
But talk about it. No, listen, the mess at the end was his own, but at the end of the day, did he leave the place in a better place than he left it? 100. And I don't want to say he left the place. He's still around.
He made us a serious player, and he made us look. We were this close from our third Sweet 16 in 5 years. 2/3 of that belonging to Jim Larrañaga, despite the disaster of his final 2 seasons down here. He absolutely lifted this program up. We're not a joke anymore. We weren't a top 25 program before Jim Larrañaga showed up to town.
This is an interesting one from You Better Love Somebody. Says Jay wound up at Georgetown in 2 years. Look, my dad's a big Georgetown basketball guy. I went to law school there, and he, was there when Ewing won the championship there. So he supports them, and I follow the program closely. That's another one of these programs that, they probably have some decent NIL, right? Because there's
I've heard the opposite. I've heard the opposite. The reason why they can't really compete, and you would think that they don't have any other sports to really commit that pot to. But Georgetown's really struggled in the NIL game.
What makes Georgetown what makes it a good job? Yes, you're in DC. You got DC, Maryland, Virginia there to recruit talent rich. You can say, well, South Florida is as good as anywhere in the country right now in terms of top tier talent coming out of here. I understand the teams. You got Columbus and you got some other big time programs, but yes, I'm not trying to argue the teams are better, but the individual talents coming out of here between these prep schools and everything now in South Florida is going to match that. NIL wise, I can't tell you I know off the top of my head. I know that when Cooley went over there, they had big expectations. They had, recruiting classes they hadn't had in a while. But what's the appeal to the Georgetown job outside of the greats who played there?
I mean, it might appeal to someone older. I mean, Jay Lucas is 37. He'd have to really rack his brain for when Georgetown was national title.
I don't know, John. His dad, John, might be in his ear, man.
But that's what it takes. There's an entire generation. We ran into this with the University of Miami football team, Pete, where
Yeah.
we're recruiting kids that have no recollection of Miami football mattering. None. Like we missed an entire generation. And that's where Georgetown finds itself. But at least Miami had a collective. And
Honestly, it's the closest comparison you can make because it was such a brand at the time. They
and it
played a
was so
style.
cool.
John Thompson was he had that swagger about
Yeah.
him. So I do like that. That's a great call by you there.
Yeah, it's a
so
lot.
I just don't see the.
It's a lot like Miami, but unlike Miami, like Miami had a path. Miami's path was NIL, and it's a very strong collective. We've had a couple of years here for Georgetown to get its act together, and they haven't. I would not fear Georgetown poaching any kind of big time candidate. I mean, look, Pete, look what happened with Syracuse. I know Jerry McNamara was the popular pick given his ties to it, but let's not forget, like people pass on that job, and this is Syracuse. They have a big time affluent alumni base. Basketball really matters. It's unlike Georgetown. They've had more recent national title success, and like if Syracuse called Jay Lucas up, you'd be like, that's not a better job than what I have right now. This is Syracuse.
Dude,
so Georgetown's not on
that was wild that Hodgson turns down Syracuse for Providence.
For Providence. The guy was like, no thanks, ACC tradition rich program. I'll go to Providence instead, which has its own tradition, but not the kind of tradition that Syracuse has. That was crazy. Maybe he knew. I don't know if it was one of those break up with you before you break up with me things, because Jerry McNamara means so much to that base, but it's a cheap hire. Their wild hack just stepped down and retired. Their athletic department's a mess. We saw fool's gold.
Did you see that Mike Tirico made that hire essentially?
Dude, I mean, I buy it. I buy it when
they had a small committee, and apparently he was a big part of it. He was doing interviews about why he was the right guy after. I'm like, that's that's a bit strange.
5 out of 10 top tier play-by-play guys went to Syracuse. So you're going to have a lot of guys in sports that have their opinions and feel strongly about it. But again, to me, that doesn't speak to a great culture. Look, there's a lot of people that have opinions and a lot of influence at the University of Miami. I know where the buck stops. It stops with Joe Echeverria, and everyone's got to kind of fall in line, right? I mean, there's plenty of people that have influence.
But here's my thing, Mike. I want to just hop on. Let me just we'll kind of wrap up the basketball stuff here in a bit. But like, this is the sort of comment that I'm not jumping on this in specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy Yatu Sabes. But he says, Jay needs to take the money and larger job ASAP. You have to strike while the iron's hot. One batter below average season, and you're no longer a hot candidate. First of all, what money and larger job has been offered to him right now, right? Like that, we're working through that. If UNC comes and offers him the job,
I get it.
Hey, Yatu Sabes.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay Lucas, man. Thank you for coming here for the 1 year. It was awesome. I had a great time. The Jay Lucas era was short, but it was
forever in our hearts.
Thank you. Good luck at UNC. I got nothing bad to say about you. If Kansas comes calling, Coach Lucas, thank you. Appreciate you. There's obviously going to be some other, if Duke comes calling, if Shire leaves,
Florida would sing. To that point. Florida would sing for obvious reasons, but even I'd be like, he played there. I get it.
So I don't like, I'm getting a lot of this sort of comments in every time I talk about it. And it's like, okay, but like, let's not just ship him off right now to the next place. Like I'm trying to figure out where Miami stands in this.
Leave the comment up because I hear you, but the iron isn't as hot as we think it might be. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. We've got some Miami Hurricanes myopia here. The reason to stay is because his name is not being mentioned right now with North Carolina outside of CanesInSight and people listening to local sports talk. And where in America gives Jay Lucas a better opportunity to have his name seriously considered, not as a plan E or F, seriously considered as a plan A? The move is to stay. He's got a 5-star coming to town. He's got guys staying. He's already shown you in 1 year he can give you one of the greatest regular seasons in Miami history and have this program rise from the ashes of where it was before, which was a devastated program with literally no one, not a player, not a coach. He rebuilt it in 1 year. So if you're Jay Lucas, I see what I did in 1 year. I see my name only being whispered about. I'm going to stay in Miami and I'm going to continue to build here. So my name is not whispered. My name is shouted from the mountaintops as this is the guy to get. He's not there yet. He's not there
Dude,
yet.
There's a comfy. He's so, you know how comfy he's got to be right now, Mike, after this first year, the largest turnaround. He's got, like you just said, he's got his boy Shelton most likely coming back. He's got another 5-star coming in. Everyone in Miami, I think, I mean, there's no pressure on him after this year. Everyone's just like excited to see how they build on it, right? So you take one of those jobs right away. Again, ya tu sabes, I'm with you, man. If one of those jobs opens, I get it. But like, there's no reason. If an NC State came calling, why the heck would he take an NC State for an
dude,
example?
and to his last point, one batter below average season, you're no longer a hot candidate. I think Jay Lucas is willing to take that risk. Look what he did in year 1 with zero on the roster. Like, we're talking about Jay Lucas fearful that he might leave for these jobs, not because we're afraid. Last season was fool's gold. There is so much room for improvement. Miami could not shoot a free throw to save its life. Miami can't shoot from downtown consistently enough. Jay Lucas hasn't had multiple years to build depth. We had none. As electrifying as the Saliatuntaj minutes were in the early season, there were still clear and obvious holes on this roster. If I'm Jay Lucas, I hear something like that. Oh, I'm a fluke? No, Jay Lucas is not a fluke. First-year head coach. Look what he did. I bet on myself. Let me get 2-3 years here at Miami, and we can start talking about the Knicks job if it opens up. Out of here.
Yeah, man. No, it's interesting though, man, because as a fan of the program as a whole, not just basketball but football, like you got to go back to when you were worried about your coach leaving to the pros, Butch Davis. Like that's really, I guess Leonard Hamilton did leave for the pros, but there was, so there was a situation behind that too. So it's like, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. The pros, to other big jobs, like it hasn't been something that's been talked about. Haith leaving to Missouri who saved Miami because that thing was going downhill already.
Look, all credit, and I'm going to give Dan Radakovich some credit here too, and just I'm going to include him in the Miami Brain Trust. Like, look where we're at, dude. We were crawling through the desert for so many years. Jim Larinaga did and Katie Meyer did their very best to make this program relevant in some sort of athletics conversation during the teens and early 2020s. But you got a coach that gave you some of the best feelings of your adult life around this program. Thank God we don't got to worry about him leaving and keep the Pittsburgh Steelers away from me. And in 1 year, you're worried about Jay Lucas leaving for some of the premier, most tradition-rich programs in basketball. I think for all the Kirk Herbstreit monologues, Barry Jackson articles, and unhinged Dan Le Batard show local hours, we finally have a brain trust at the University of Miami that deserves our trust, and thank God for that. We are out of those doldrums.
And I'll say this, Mike. I said it the other day on the show. Just looking ahead, right? If you call it doomsday, right? The day that one of these
doomsday
schools
clock.
Yeah, well, the doomsday clock. The day that sets off, the people who. Because you have a similar group of people who made the basketball hire the last time as well. A lot of the people involved in the basketball decision-making process were very involved this time, and they made both hires were out of yes. I had my Columbus cup here the other day when I was mentioning it as well. But both hires have been outside the box hires. Jim Larinaga, everyone accused him of coming down here to retire. at that time. And he gave us, how many years was it? 13 years, 14 years strong.
Mhm.
So, and then Jay Lucas, no head coaching experience. A lot of people kind of questioned it at first. But once you looked into the pedigree, you're like, I understand. So I trust those people.
Yes, sir. Yeah, worthy of our trust. All right, let's move on, because one of the greatest accomplishments of Jay Lucas this year was to make this football offseason go away in record time. Thank you, Jay Lucas, for taking up our attention. And also thank you, Mario Cristobal, for a really deep run. Usually our season ends a month and a half earlier than it actually did. But the boys put on the pads, and on the heels of one of the most well-attended pro days in program history, Mario Cristobal and company got back to work, and we saw Darian Mensah put on the Miami helmet for the first time. I've some people made comments. All right, let me hear it straight from the horse's mouth. It got back to me that Peter Rees said Darian Mensah's small.
No, I didn't say that at all, actually.
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
It's funny. I actually said that he looked big. I said that it looks like he's been eating his rice and beans down here. I said that he looked big. So I don't know. I don't know who said that, but
all right,
I definitely did
I'm
not.
Glad, I'm glad to diffuse that. All right. So that's one Peter.
I said Coleman looked tiny, but that's that's not
He's a true freshman. What the hell?
But he's got a delivery on him, but that'll just be
That was another one of the rumors that I heard. So we've squashed one, gave some credence to the other one, but common sense. All right. Here's another rumor that I got. Why is Peter Rees starting a schism on the coaching staff?
Well, listen, there's no schisms. The schism, I'll say this. There is a schism. It's not on the coaching staff. It might be between D Money and I. But I'll call him the eye roller, because that's really what set me off. He started rolling his eyes at me today, and he's not here to defend himself. I'm sure he'll have a different here it is. Flanker says another rumor. Pete loves eye rolls. It was the eye rolls. That's really what happened this morning, Mike. You have to, I know you were working, so you didn't get a chance to see it this morning, but I'll send you kind of the timestamp of where it begins. But essentially our boy sometimes is he's a positive guy. I had to hop off the show when he said he was a straight shooter. I just started laughing, and I left the chat. But listen, we had a little bit of a back and forth today, just because I said I think it's been a bit strange how the situation with the cornerback coach hiring, non-hiring has played out here. You've had, as Zach Etheridge left to the NFL, awesome to see your coaches go on to the next level on the heels of what we were just talking about with basketball. But it's great to see the position coaches move on there. And I said, look, Terry Jefferson, who was coaching the corners yesterday, and then Mario pretty much said, look, he's under consideration still, but we're going to continue to evaluate. If you're going to bring someone else in from the outside, it's a little weird that you don't have them here for the first week of spring practice. If you're going to stick with Terry Jefferson, who I'm a fan of and I think could do a great job, go out there and make him the guy. What are we waiting for then? Like I don't think you needed to go through all this. D Money he thinks that it's a normal thing. He says, oh, it's great. It's going under a trial. And I just think that we should really have someone in place already, whether it's Jefferson or if it's someone else. Like, practice has started now.
All right. So the context here is, look, it's a coach in the secondary. Why get so worked up? But that's the eye rolls coming from a dude that hit stage 5 red alert on the transfer portal conversations when it came to the quarterback. He's not exactly the D Money that I know isn't exactly Joe Cool. That guy was moping around, ruined national title week because he was panicked about the quarterback situation, where I was like, these guys deserve a little credit here. So he plays it cool when he wants to, but it sounds like from where I'm sitting, the schism is not on this coaching staff, nor is it manufactured by Peter Rees. There is a real schism here, though, and it's on CanesInSight. And it begins with the eye rolls, really.
Look, there it is. Sergio, who was always a great Great viewer here says D Money is the instigator.
All right,
I
so
can.
so I know that you gave a lot of good nuggets here over the last couple days since the first practice. I'm headed to practice on Saturday. Unfortunately, I got one of those real jobs. So the Saturday's one of those times that I can make it out there. But I can't wait to see how we look along that defensive line. I'm really excited about how we plan to replace 2 first-round draft picks. But give me some of the nuggets that were discarded as you and D Money had your schism.
Yes.
What didn't you get to?
Well, so really got to see almost about an hour worth of practice, which in spring we get more than we do during fall camp, because obviously there's a lot more formational stuff and things of that nature. But right off the bat, I think the biggest headline that you got to talk about here, Mike, when we talk about the offensive line and how much is being shifted there, is that Matthew McCoy, who was splitting reps at left guard with Samson Okunlola last year, was the right tackle yesterday. And look, sometimes they try not to, they don't really want the depth chart stuff out there and all that from the media. But as I said on my show yesterday afternoon, McCoy spoke to the media afterwards and said that his focus was being the best right tackle he can be. Right. So you saw him there. Jackson Cantwell is the left tackle. So you're thrusting him out there right off the bat as a freshman.
That's
I said on the show,
dude.
Yeah, no, and look, I said on the show this morning with D Money, and I think D and I were on 100% on the same page with this. I think Cantwell will do awesome right off the bat. He's the number 1 tackle in the country, number 1 player in the country for a reason. I worry about how the fans are going to react because you know how it is when you're watching offensive linemen. You can have a great game and then you get beat for a sack, you get a false start, you have a holding, and all of a sudden, man, this kid's a bust. He's the worst offensive lineman in the world. Why are we throwing him out there that early? And that's just not how you can really evaluate how an offensive lineman's playing. So he will take some lumps early. Speed may give him some issues, but I think all in all, Mario and Mirabal are looking at the big picture here with Cantwell. Mike, is he going to take some lumps first month of the season? Maybe. But how much better will this guy be when you get to playoff time, having played a full season there in year 2 and year 3 as the left tackle, right? Why are you going to ease him into it? And we saw this with Francis. They said right off the bat, you're the right tackle. They didn't sway away from that. So he had so many reps at right tackle. So.
And there were some growing pains. With CC.
That's what I said earlier too. He had some false starts. He had that bad game against NC State. He had some holdings, but you take those lumps, and now he's going to be a top 10 pick.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. And Cantwell comes in with even more fanfare than CC Mawanoa did. I just that day 1 spring, like that's a testament to how impressive Cantwell was during the CFP when he was attending practice with these guys during workouts. Day 1 spring. Like, for him to have already earned the looks at starting left tackle is crazy.
The funny thing, Mike, is Mario, who he's gonna have to do this because he doesn't want guys to get too high. When asked about Cantwell, his first words were, if he give a little, he's probably glad that Ruben Bain and Mesidor weren't out there today because he was getting his butt kicked in December. So he, how Mario's going to send those messages to guys. I wanted to get to this comment here. JD Carmona says lumps versus Stanford, Western Michigan, and Wake Forest ? Stanford a couple years ago had David Bailey on their team, who's going to be a top 5-10 pick now, ended up at Texas Tech. Wake Forest had that D tackle who's the number 1 D lineman in the portal who ended up at Texas Tech this year. So we can't look at just who's on the schedule. If he's got you guys know there's players everywhere, man. So yeah, I could see it. But in the end of the day, he will be freshman All-American. I think he'll have a chance to be one of these, second or third type conference players. Like, I think he's going to be that good, but we got to be patient with it.
Yeah.
Right. Like we can't because this is how we think, right? JD saying he's good. Why, if he struggles, he's already setting us up. If he struggles, he sucks. That's what you're saying here with this comment. And it's just not fair to the kid. It's just not, Mike.
Yeah, you got to have the stomach for some growing pains there. Although with Cantwell,
ooh, we got a good comment here. Our boy Amon, who Mon.
Yeah.
Mon has some real good access as a Canes great. Says Cantwell is a lot more agile than I predicted. So
Here, look, as a recovering Cleveland Browns fan, all I needed to know was Joe Thomas taking Cantwell under his wing. Like for Joe Thomas to be like, this is my guy. I'm all in there. My expectations are sky high so far. Every early report that I heard, as soon as Cantwell got around this program, off the charts, between the years, and physically gifted, and a guy that we hope will be considered top 3 overall pick when his day comes.
good comment from Johnny Lagoon, who I just saw a wild Lagoon, man. It was I knew we were gonna have a good show today, Mike, when I saw Johnny Lagoon
Me too.
on Miracle Mile in the wild a little while ago. But he does pose a question here, and I'll answer with this. He says the thing is, will he be like CC or Samson, and that Samson took his time to develop into a starter here? I don't remember them thrusting Samson as a starter day one of his first spring practice. I might be wrong, but I think the messaging pretty early on with Samson, although he came in as the number 1 tackle in the country, was Francis is ahead of him. Francis is ahead of him. It's going to take a little bit more time with Samson.
Mm-hmm.
With Cantwell, the messaging has been what you're saying here, Mike, which is, hey, this guy's got what it takes. Of course, going against Bane Mesidor, he'll have some struggles, but he's going to be a really good one. So I think the messaging has been a little bit different from the inside when you talk about those two.
And there's like only one example since Mario's gotten here where
I know who you're going with this.
Tommy Kinsler. Yeah. There's only been one time where Mario's had a little twinkle in his eye talking about a guy along that offensive line. Now, Kinsler got hurt. There were a lot of other mitigating factors why Tommy Kinsler didn't end up panning out. But for the most part, Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal, when they speak about these guys like this, and trust me, what I've heard about Cantwell is way greater than what I heard about Tommy Kinsler. And Tommy Kinsler stuck out because, look, that's when the cupboard was bare a little bit. But when they speak on these guys at that position, the way that they are, they know they got a good one.
Right.
Mario is an incredible talent evaluator. If there's look, I keep hearing how great Mario Cristobal is in these interviews. Now, man, he's really opened up. You know why Mario Cristobal is like that? Because he knows he's got a good team. He's not riding high. He would tell you he hasn't accomplished jack yet, but he does have that swagger when he knows that he's built the team that is one that is in lockstep with what he envisioned. And that's what he's got here. He has nailed it. He has built this locker room out. Yeah. He's got the culture where it needs to be. He's got the trenches where it needs to be. Now we're going to see these waves of depth. Oh, we're going to lose some guys to the NFL. We're going to have 4 first-round picks. Here we go. I retool. That's Miami. This is the assembly line of talent. Mario knows that now. And that's why he's confident, which is why you should listen to when he speaks glowingly about Jackson Cantwell.
I've gone on this point I've done this little rant a couple times the last few weeks here, Mike, but what's the negative recruiting pitch against Miami right now? The only thing I can find is if you're a quarterback, a highly rated high school quarterback, yeah, they go after, they're probably going to go after a portal guy, right? Until that changes, I can see that being a legitimate concern for a highly rated high school quarterback that you're going after.
Which, by the way, is a new reality for quarterbacks coming out of high school everywhere. I felt bad about it. We've talked about this on the show. Like, this is tricky for recruiting high school quarterbacks. We're happy with Coleman, right? Like, we still get one a class. And I think the adjustment's not on the University of Miami. We have a DNA now. We're back, right? We were national runners up, right? Our DNA is we're going to go after the best guy at that position. And I think that is not unique. What's unique is Miami's ability to hit on it. But that is not unique. Everybody goes into the portal looking. So I think it's on the kids to kind of adjust to that. To your point, though, Pete, like people were talking, like word on the street was like in-state schools were really pumping up that Mario Steelers thing because to your original point, there ain't much here. to negative recruit. There isn't.
On-field results to win, right? Obviously, the location and everything that comes with being in the city of Miami, NIL, we know what that is. A dirty secret, Mike, that I don't know that we actually, outside of the on-field results, that we didn't really highlight enough, I don't think, as to why Miami was missing on some of these guys. You didn't really have any NFL top level before Cam Ward gets picked first round last year. Elijah Arroyo there in the second round, but now you have 3 first rounders. You can now sell NFL success with this staff and these guys at Miami, because a lot of what they were selling the first couple of years, Mike, was, hey, we turned Penei Sewell into it. We recruited and turned him into a first round pick. Kayvon Thibodeau, same sort of thing. Justin Herbert. That's who they were using, Mike.
Yeah.
It wasn't anyone in Miami. Now you can point to the guys at Miami. So it's a different ball game there as well. So you got ammo. These other coaching staffs that are Florida's coaching staff, I mean, what's their ammo right now against the University of Miami? They'll get guys because it's that first year recruiting bump. They'll probably have a top 10 class. Like, they'll have a good class this year. But is Miami going to lose the guys they really, really want? Are you going to lose a Mark Matthews as the number 1 tackle in the country from St. Thomas Aquinas to Florida in year 1 when you've got years of pedigree now? And by the way, if you're Mark Matthews, you're going to now see Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 recruit the year before you at your position, starting year 1. So why, like, what's the negative push? And you're winning on the field now. You just played in the national championship. It's a very difficult, it's kind of a beast right now to recruit against when you have a coach who has the work ethic Mario has.
The way that you attack Miami from a negative recruiting standpoint now, admittedly, has got to be a cell phone. You go over there, you're not going to play. You come over here, you're going to play.
Yeah.
Like that's the pitch now. From every
come
angle.
be a part of to bring us back, which is what we had to hear forever was the pitch at Miami.
Yeah, which
Stay
is why
late, be home, be great at the crib, which, you still want to get the best guys, but like,
which is why we don't have Jeremiah Smith right now. That's the singular reason. And now you have the proof of concept over there. But outside of quarterback and like, oh, you got to worry about the portal guy coming, and some guys have the mental makeup, which is like, all right, bring on all challengers, I'll beat them. But look, here's the fact of the matter when it comes to Miami's portal approach. Here's the ugly secret. Miami didn't feel great about what they had in the room. If they felt great about what they had in the room, would they have kicked the tires? I think so. I just think that's the kind of leader that Mario is. Like, he's not scared of being unpopular. He's not scared of ramifications. He's most scared of not upholding his own standard. And it means like making some people uncomfortable with making some overtures to portal quarterbacks, and then so be it. But Miami didn't feel fantastic about those quarterback rooms, which is why they were looking for obvious upgrades, and they have 3 seasons over. Like, you look at Bain, you look at Malinois. These guys took a chance on us. They believed in us. They played for a national title in their final season at Miami. We can do the homegrown thing. Oh, you want to level up? You have great sack numbers, but that's over at West Virginia. You come over here, we'll level you up. Mesidor, you went from being an injury-riddled guy that might be day 2, day 3, to solidifying because we put the talent around you, so you can just pin your ears back and go get the quarterback. We can level you up here at Miami. Or you take a look at a Keontae Scott, who might be the most pivotal guy in the bunch, which is, this guy wasn't lighting the world on fire as a prospect that was entering the portal. Auburn, Houston, like, really? Come over here to Miami. You'll be doing the Jim Thorpe pose in the Cotton Bowl end zone as you run faster in game than you probably did in your 40-yard dash, which was plenty fast at the pro day. He's got it clicking. The only way to attack this team from a recruiting-based standpoint is you go to Miami, you're not going to be able to play right away. That's it.
Yeah.
He's done it.
Mike,
He's done it.
The other thing that I found interesting, which I had heard rumblings of, but Mario kind of got a little bit more into detail, and I still want to find out more, maybe from strength and conditioning staff and things of that nature. But we always hear the way Mario practices these guys and pushes these guys. Obviously, he instills a toughness, a culture. It's a very physical sort of style. But what Mario said is, hey, this offseason we just had was way different than what I've had to do the last few years because we played such a long year. they pretty much put in these protocols that if a guy played a certain amount of snaps, you're held out of this portion of the offseason program. You aren't getting going until a few weeks down the line. Obviously, the freshmen and the guys who didn't really play much, pedal to the metal. But, and I said it on the show this morning, put Mark Fletcher in bubble wrap. Put Damari Brown in bubble wrap, please. Marty Brown, with the way that he runs, I don't really need to see it right now. Let's go give the freshman Javion Mallory. Let's go give Pringle. Let's go give Chris Wheatley-Humphrey these touches. Yes, you want them to be fresh. Yes, you're gonna. I'm not saying that these guys aren't gonna practice, but let's give them these vet days because you need to preserve the health of this team, and you want to continue to talk about the quarterback position. Obviously, Mensah, it's a different ballgame. You need him getting as many reps with his guys as possible, Mike. But talk about Moten. He's not going to be practicing this spring. He had a procedure. He was banged up the entire playoffs. There's just, Mo Toure, Chase Smith. Those are your top two linebackers. They've had their injury history.
Mo Toure died for us.
Please, let's just do this the right way. And who am I to I'm not telling Mario how to do things, but I think it's refreshing to hear him talk about this stuff, Mike, when you talk about the way that you talk about how he's been different with the media, that people have said maybe something after the SMU game happened. I don't think it's that. I just think that they've started to win and he's got a real backing now. Like the
only reason I believe something happened after the SMU game is we got the results because we've seen Miami teams fold after that. We've seen Mario Cristobal-led teams fold after that. And because Mario Cristobal himself has given voice, I had to change my approach after that. He put some of the onus on growing up, learning, not growing up, but learning from Nick Saban as he tried to rebuild his reputation as a head man. Like, I've seen how he handled that stuff. It was pretty tough. And he realized it wasn't working here in Miami, and he had to alter it a little bit, and he got results. Mario Cristobal, I know he's an older Cuban male, but you usually have to worry about guys being super stubborn. And that's not to say that he's not going to be forever stubborn in certain ways. But I think that last year was an incredible year for growth for Mario Cristobal. That he's not a finished product. He's constantly looking to improve. And we've seen this from his ability to address talent deficiencies to coaching deficiencies. Like, he's on it quicker than the message board, folks. Like, he's on which coaches are lacking and which coaches need to be replaced. We've seen it in his ability to level up with his replacements every time. He's got a great eye for coaching talent. All right. We talk about Shannon Dawson as one of the great OCs in Miami program history. Heatherman came in here, Broyles Award finalist, like right off the bat. He does well. And this is just another layer to his growth and development. Real fun show. Really in the weeds. We chewed on a lot of stuff here. We'll have more for you as spring football practice continues on. But now
I'm excited for you to watch the show from this morning.
I will. I want to see those eye rolls. I got to see those eye rolls.
There was multiple eye rolls.
Yeah. One last football thing, because football's hot. The Stanford game to open up the season. I know that they were just lumped in with a whole group of cupcakes. It's a tricky game. Like, Stanford's a real program. Yeah. And last year you could say, real bad. But new coach energy, a huge infusion of cash, prime time, home game against the national runner-up on a spooky Friday, ACC. Like, these are not good spots. All right. Conference game right off the bat, cross-country trip. Thank God it's to start the season and not some cross-country trip, week 7. Cross-country, prime time, new energy around the program, hope. A team that hasn't been told yet definitively that they are not good. They'll find out for themselves on the field. Like that I don't think it's the easiest game. I respect the opponent, but more importantly, I think you got to respect the spot. That's not being done favors by the schedule makers at all.
Yeah, I mean, can you expect them to do any favors for Miami?
That's not after what I saw in basketball.
No, I mean, you're getting all these Friday night games. I gotta say, the Stanford one is kind of a cool trip. No, I mean, I'm sure you'll be making that one. That seems like it's got Mike Ryan written all over it.
I got what I wanted out of the Golden Canes trip. Have you guys? I mean, I don't know.
Clemson, I heard.
it is indeed Clemson, which is what I voted for. Thankfully, they put out a survey. Now, they haven't told us expressly that we were the ones that made the decision, but they did poll Golden Canes, which I found very helpful. And I did put Clemson number 1 on my list for entirely selfish reasons. All right. I'm a single issue voter, me, right? So I didn't want the Golden Canes trip to start the season. I can do all the winery stuff on my own, right? I can have that experience. And I like building up to a Golden Cane. So I didn't, we'll probably be back to Berkeley soon. We have that opportunity. And I didn't want Notre Dame is the obvious one. And I think the plan was for Notre Dame to be, you don't get to spend like all your time in this crap town, South Bend, Indiana. We'll keep you in Chicago. I've been to Chicago, like 24 times. And the real tricky part for me was I'm a NASCAR guy, as you know. I'm a real gearhead here. And that's championship race weekend down here at Homestead. I'm already tabbed to do some content out there, some branded stuff. Would have been tough for me to do that turnaround. Yeah. Golden Canes trip, South Bend. So I got what I wanted, which is Clemson. And I've never seen a game at Death Valley. And I'm excited for this opportunity, especially I'm excited to beat up on a bad Clemson team too. That one gets me excited.
Yeah.
Because these Golden Canes trips, win-loss record, not great for your boy. Not great at all. So I'm hopeful for that. So that's the nitty-gritty, pull the curtain back on the Golden Canes trip. Pete, I enjoyed doing Song of the Week with you last week so much.
Yes.
I love that song. Song is a banger. I put it in the CanesInSight playlist, which is on Spotify and Apple Music. Thing's a banger. I love this.
You liked it? Nice.
Yes. So I'm hopeful that you have a Song of the Week this week.
So I can come up with one here.
Oh, come on.
No, I was going to tell you, I do have a wrestler of the week.
Whoa. All right. Hold on. Stop the presses.
Yeah.
All right. If there's one thing that I love more than a Peter Ariz Song of the Week, it's a Peter Ariz Wrestler of the Week. Now, this is a shocking development because last week you didn't have one, and I thought that maybe my boy Pete has fallen out of love with sports entertainment. But you got a Wrestler of the Week?
I got a Wrestler of the Week, my friend. I got a goddamn wrestler. I got a gosh darn Wrestler of the Week, my friend. My Wrestler of the Week is Big Bad Brock Lesnar. I had the Beast Incarnate lined up before his Spin Chicklets interview this week. I'm not crazy about the direction his character's headed in WrestleMania, but one of the all-time great athletes and heels to ever do it. His accolades speak for themselves. D1 national champ at Minnesota, like the great Corey Heatherman, youngest to ever win the WWE championship, IWGP heavyweight champion, going to UFC and becoming the heavyweight champion there. I could go on for days here, Mike. I understand he's 48. And his career is coming to an end. I just didn't see him going out like this. Losing to Obafemi at WrestleMania and then to Gunther at SummerSlam in his build hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Just felt like they could have gotten another good year out of him, Mike, if they knew the end was near. He's given too much to the sport, man. I disappointed with how this thing's gone down.
Incredible breakdown, Pete. But I would say fear not. While I do believe his career is winding down, and I do think that it'll end to Gunther at SummerSlam, like you mentioned, I'd hold the phone on him losing to Obafemi at WrestleMania. Yes, over the last 2 weeks, that's the way that it's been booked, with Brock Lesnar doing so many things as being thrown over the top rope, letting Obafemi put his foot on his chest as Obafemi gets power move after power move. Brock Lesnar is selling his ass off for Obafemi. You know what that leads me to believe? Brock Lesnar by the skin of his teeth. He wins at WrestleMania. Young buck, he's still got a little bit more experience. You look plenty strong, and you will look incredibly strong in the ring against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, but the old veteran, the way that Frank Mir did him in his UFC debut, maybe a little ankle lock. Maybe I
you're getting me excited, man. You're getting me excited over here. Don't tell me that, Mike.
Your time is soon, but your time is not now, Obafemi. We can worry about next WrestleMania, but I will continue marching on to SummerSlam against Gunther, and then it'll actually mean something because I'm not riding a 2-game losing streak on PLEs. You know what I mean? I think Brock Lesnar beats Obafemi. That's my take.
Wow.
Great Wrestler of the Week. God, I'm
Thank you.
So you get me jacked up whenever you talk about wrestling.
You like that one, huh?
I did. And by comparison, my wrestler sucks. not just from accomplishments, but just size and stature, because he went with the beast incarnate. All right. He
Had
went
to.
top of the line. I should have built up for it. My guy's just gone viral because he's looking weird and acting weird in the ring. All right. Leo Rush is my wrestler of the week. Went viral as kind of like an enhancement talent against Tommaso Ciampa on AEW. I think AEW is firing on all cylinders right now. This promotion's doing really well. However, I will tip the hat. I think WWE is getting a little bit better with their WrestleMania build. We'll see how this plays out. But Leo Rush, as athletic, a high flyer, as you'll find in wrestling, really gifted physically in terms of agility, but very small in stature. So his new character, who just appears to be some possessed crazy person, is really fun. Aim can go, and if it's indeed an enhancement talent, boy, consider that talent enhanced. I think Leo Rush, when you look at these social clips, while most people were laughing at him at first, joke's on you. These are some of the most viewed clips in AEW social history. Leo Rush is getting the people talking with his character. So yet another reason to tune in to a legit wrestling alternative in AEW. Pete, your wrestler of the week was so good that we don't have to do a song of the week if you don't want. But I'll give you the opportunity. Should you?
I just the thing is, I don't feel comfortable. I have a few here, but none of them I don't want to stamp and put my name on.
Okay,
kind of the way that Mario Cristobal has been with the cornerbacks coach search, unfortunately. But
we negative recruit your song of the week submissions because maybe they can't play right away.
Yeah, well, listen, we have your song of the week here.
So. My song of the week is by Arcade Fire. Now, Arcade Fire kind of pseudo canceled. All right, there was a big expose on for those that are big fans of the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game. Win Butler went to work in the post. You throw the ball down and Win Butler, the guy did some work. And then would occasionally have the microphone taken away from him by Sage Steele because he would start venturing into politics world, ironically enough. But Arcade Fire as really one of the great indie rock bands of the mid-2000s, some all-time classics. I used to absolutely love Arcade Fire. However, when Win got canceled, or in advance of his brother getting canceled, Will already put out a statement, who was invaluable to the band, saying that he was going to leave, and the band did take a dip. There was some talent leaving, and it seems as though Regine, his now separated wife, is going to stay with the band. She's brilliant. I saw a CBS Sunday Morning. Pete, catch this. She was interviewed by CBS Sunday Morning. Her and Win Butler were interviewed. Regine is such a musical genius that songs come to her in her dreams, and they come built and composed backwards, and her brain deconstructs these backwards songs. She's just genius level musician. Arcade Fire is a huge collective of talented musicians, had this big sweeping sound. You have orchestral, you have synths, you have some guitar bass rock, you have harmony, a lot of complexity going on with their sound. And for several years, they were the posh favorite of celebrities to say, who's your favorite band right now? God, I love Arcade Fire. The Suburbs, to me, one of the all-time albums. I love Arcade Fire, even though I'm kind of sad what's become of them. However, I was listening today because there was a clip of Win Butler joining Brandon Flowers of the Killers on stage at one of the South American Lollapaloozas.
I thought you were going to talk about the former Virginia Tech corner who played for the Chiefs, Brandon Flowers.
Yeah, I thought you would. But it was the Killers, Brandon Flowers, and he joined him for a couple of songs, and it got me to be like, man, unfortunate what's happened to Arcade Fire, but let me revisit some of these songs. And Arcade Fire was just so good in this like 2004 to 2014 10-year stretch where they were honestly, like, to me, one of the greatest things in rock music. And so I'm going with one of my favorite songs ever off a really great album, the Reflector album, in which they kickstarted the whole campaign for Reflector by playing a show in Little Haiti at the Cultural Center and a show at a downtown nightclub that's no longer there. I saw them both nights, free shows, incredible concerts. Win often came down here and played small clubs as DJ Windows 98 and having a lot of great Haitian influence because Regine is Haitian. Afterlife is a beautiful song on a wonderful album that features one of David Bowie's last performances on the title track Reflector. And I wanted this song, it's one of my favorite songs ever, to be represented on the CanesInSight playlist. So have at it. Please enjoy Afterlife by Arcade Fire, one of the great bands. And I'm hopeful for a day that we get far removed from Win Butler's sins, that he atones for him as he has, and we can get a full reformation and reunion of the once great Arcade Fire, because truly one of the great rock bands of the 21st century. And there he is, Brandon Flowers, Mr. Brightside.
The once great Brandon Flowers, man. Look at
there
him.
he is.
Delray Beach's own.
Mr. Brightside himself, Brandon Flowers. Pete, it was yet again just a wonderful experience co-hosting this show with you. Thank you for bringing so much, and I hope I kept the eye roll count down to
I was gonna. You took the words out of my mouth, man. I appreciate having a co-host that doesn't demean me by rolling his eyes at me. It just makes the job a lot more enjoyable. Let me tell you.
Look, it's a little pay for play. I give you no eye rolls. You give me a wrestler of the week that sets a world on fire. Pete, my man crush on you continues to grow. Great talking hoops and spring football. We will be back with you tomorrow morning. No doubt D-Money is still covering this team, even though he's doing some traveling right now and eye rolling. But CanesInSight, you can bet your bottom dollar will be on top of all the
practice tomorrow again. Practice tomorrow again. So I'll be out there and I'll do my car report as normal.
Great. Peter Reese will be at practice tomorrow. I'll be at practice on Saturday. We will continue delivering the best Miami Hurricanes content out there. All you have to do to thank us is support our sponsors. Pete, I don't know if you got a read over there for some of our sponsors.
Yeah, shout out to Anajar and Levine. As always, the law offices of Anajar and Levine. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. I think I didn't give that one in the beginning, so shout out to Anajar and Levine, but we handled everything else this morning, Mike. So
great. So continue to support our sponsors because they help us pay the bills, and also you can help us pay the bills by liking and subscribing. Most people that consume daily content like ours
we hit 15. We hit
subscribe.
15K last night, actually, Mike. There you go. So
that's because the messaging is working, folks. I see you in the comments section. Math and statistics tell me that most of you haven't even really clicked subscribe. You just assume that you already subscribed. No. You have to click that subscribe button. That goes a long way, and you'll be alerted the second Pete goes live from his car, or post-game Pete celebrates a defeat of Stanford in a few months' time. Please like and subscribe our videos, share them, and subscribe to the podcast feeds. We will be with you tomorrow, and D-Money will no doubt be rolling his eyes at one Peter Ruiz. Thank you, and go Canes.
Go Canes.